Hi everyone, my name is Valerie Brock, and here is my oral presentation on infant trauma in the military family. I hope you enjoy it. I'm really nervous, so let's get started. Okay, so again, we'll be discussing today about infant trauma in the military family. So here is a little overview of what we're going to be talking about. Okay, so we're going to talk about Erik Erikson, go over a little bit of his background. We will then talk about his stages of development, particularly stage 1, because that's the stage that has to deal with infants. We will then discuss attachment, the traumas that affect attachment. We will also apply this to the military family because that is the population that I'm focusing on. We will also go over some resources available for individuals in the military. And then we'll have like a little role play at the end. So, first up is we're going to do a little pop quiz. Okay, so does anybody know who this is? Here's a little bit of information. This individual is a German-born American developmental psychologist who studied at the University of Vienna, and his theory of psychosocial development is considered to be one of the most important theories in modern psychology. This person right here is Erik Erikson. He's got some fancy hair. Again, he is the founder of psychosocial development, the theory. Again, he's also considered to have developed one of the most important theories of adult development in psychology. But more specifically, or importantly, he actually coined the term identity crisis because of his stage 5 in his theory. But an interesting fact is that Erikson was able to develop this theory based off of his own identity crisis. That kind of is what helped pushed for this lifespan development model that he has created. So, again, studied in Vienna. He is a psychoanalytical. He does have that kind of approach. He is very heavily influenced by Sigmund Freud and Anna Freud. Anna Freud, actually, Erikson worked underneath Anna Freud when he went to Vienna. But Erikson's created his theory kind of based off of Sigmund Freud's theory of psychosexual development. Now, Freud's theory of psychosexual development means that there's a conflict with the id, the individual's id, and it also, Freud's theory is only 5 stages of development, ending with the genital stage. So his is purely trying to satisfy, the individual's sexual needs. Erikson's theory is not like that because his is not sexually based, it's socially based. So that's why it's psychosocial. Oops, sorry about that. That's why his is psychosocial. Now, when you look at Erikson's theory, unlike Freud's, his is a conflict with the ego. Okay, so that's why Erikson also felt that there was more stages beyond the 5 that Freud had, because he believed that it was a life occurrence for development. You're always developing in your life; you never stop. So looking at these stages, there are, again, 8 stages. There's 5 before the age of 18, and then there is 3 after the age of 18. So looking at these stages, okay, so stage 1 is the stage we'll actually be talking about in a little bit. And real quick, just to give you a heads up, when it comes to these stages, it's not like it's specific or it's exact, like it's between 0 and 18 months this stage happens, and between 18 months and 3 years this stage happens. These are normally around like the generalized time frames of when these conflicts arise, because that's all his stage is that each stage is a conflict that has arisen within the individual, and it's whether or not they're able to overcome or resolve that conflict. And if they do resolve that conflict, each conflict in each stage, or each crisis in each stage, then it is believed that you will have a positive, fulfilling life. If there's an issue or you don't resolve your crisis or conflict in each stage, then that you will always have that issue until it is resolved. So again, looking at stage 1, this is trust versus mistrust. You normally tend to see this in infants, which is normally about between 0 to 18 months. And in this stage particular, the child learns to try and trust other people. They're trying to develop hope, a hope that they will be able to trust a caregiver. If they're not able to learn how to trust or hope to trust these individuals, the mistrust will be developed, and then can develop into attachment issues later. But again, that's later on in the presentation. And I can never say this one, but stage 2 is autonomy versus shame and doubt. And in this stage, you see this typically in between 18 months and 3 years. And these children, or the kids in this stage, tend to work and try and be independent. And what they're wanting to do is they're trying to learn to gain some type of self-confidence in themselves to know that they can do this. And when they are possibly like punished or for doing something that they've done independently, they begin to doubt themselves on whether or not they can be, they do have that self-confidence. So that's the conflict in that one. The third stage is typically seen between 3 to 6 years, and this is initiative versus guilt. And in this stage, the child tends to go off and try and be more explorative in their surroundings, or trying to go and do more things on their own. And they're encouraged to try and find, what they like, what they want to do, and it's with that lack of confidence to engage in what they're interested in, or to take that initiative to find out what they like. That's the conflict that can arise from that stage. Stage 4 is going to typically seen between 6 years to 12 years, and it is industry versus inferiority. And in this stage, children are learning to try and master different tasks, because they want to go out and play, and they want to go learn. And so they have to try and learn to, how do I say this? They're trying to learn to be successful in what they do. And if they're not able to accomplish that task, well, then they're going to feel like they're a failure, and that they're inferior to others because they can't perform to par like others can. And then you have stage 5, which is identity versus identity confusion, and this is seen in adolescence. Now, this is probably, I've read before that this stage is like I said, the basis for Erikson's theory, because in his theory, you're trying to, there's a conflict with the ego, it's the individual, so you're trying to find out who you are, and that's why this stage is often seen as the most important one. So identity versus identity confusion has to deal with the adolescents who are wanting to explore who they are, who try to find out who they are. So that's why you see them kind of change from one type of personality to another, maybe abruptly, or you see them changing like their clothing to try and fit in with others. Excuse me. Once they find themselves, once they try and find out who they are, or what road, like who they want to be, then that's normally when you see that the conflict is resolved. So then looking at the next 3 stages, are stages 6 to 8, or stages 6, 7, and 8. And these stages are actually in adulthood. So stage 6 is intimacy versus isolation. And in this one, you're looking for that close relationship. Are you going to have somebody else with you? Are you going to be in a relationship without, sacrificing your own identity, who you want to be? Or are you just going to be by yourself? Stage 7 is generativity. I can never say it. Generativity. That's actually spelled wrong, so I'm sorry. Versus stagnation. In this one, adults are trying, the adults are trying to be more invested in their family and their futures, and they're looking past themselves and wanting to pretty much either be working or or working hard and focusing on their family, being productive for them, or being set in their ways and just not wanting to do anything for them. They're wanting to be on their own, not provide, be productive for them. And finally, stage 8 is integrity versus despair. And in this one, you want to take successes, or you want to be happy with what you've done in your life. Are you happy with what you've done in, from in your past, or is there something that you're really not happy about? And that's why, and that's why sometimes you can see some older individuals who are like, well, I wish I would have done this differently or this differently. They mourn for the loss of their opportunities to be able to feel a sense of accomplishment. Now we are going to look at stage 1, which is trust versus mistrust. And the conflict or crisis that arises from this is, can I trust, or can I hope to trust? This is important for an infant because they are not able to do anything. They are totally dependent on a caregiver or a parent for their survival. So what they're wanting to do is to hope to be able to trust you to take care of them, to provide for their needs, and to make sure that they are taken care of. Now, if this is not met, this will affect the infant in their perception of their caregiver. Can I really trust them? Why are they doing this? Why aren't they feeding me? Why aren't they changing me? And then it starts to deteriorate the infant's ability to trust or hope to trust. Later on, or as time goes on in the infant's development, they will begin to internalize their emotions, thoughts, or feelings. And then they're not able to understand, their feelings yet. So then they kind of act out, which is kind of what leads to the attachment issue that comes up. So what is attachment? Attachment is a term used to describe a dependency relationship a child develops towards his or her primary caregiver. Attachment is important because it is what helps build the parent-child relationship. If the child is not able to have a secure attachment or feelings of being safe with their caregiver, there will always be an issue on whether or not the infant is able to trust. There will be behavioral issues in later stages. It will affect their ability to develop a healthy relationship. It will be part of their stage 8 as to things that they wish that they could have done differently, or whether or not they were happy in their life. Now, as you can see, there's 4 types of attachment. Okay, so again, secure attachment is the attachment type that is what's strived for. Okay, so when you look at attachment for infants, you'll be able to see that the infant is able to go away from the caregiver, but yet come back if they're unsure of something. And that's the ideal type of attachment that we would want for the infant. Now, if there is that conflict, or if the conflict is not addressed or resolved, this is where the insecure, avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized can start to really take off. So insecure avoidant is, it shows small interest in the caregiver but cries when the caregiver leaves. So they're not really interested in you, but where are you going? Come back. I need you. Insecure ambivalent means that they're clingy, so they are not letting go to you. They are not going to leave you because they are afraid that you're never going to come back. But then when they get hurt or when they need you, they're inconsolable. They don't want, it seems like they don't want to be around you. And again, this is them internalizing their emotions and they're acting out on it because they don't know. And then the last one is insecure, disorganized, and they're fearful and resistant. So they're going to run as soon as they see you, or if they start to feel that they need a caregiver, they're not going to run to you. They will run somewhere else. They'll run away from you. They'll be resistant to you. So as you can see, the conflict of trust versus mistrust is really important in infant development because it helps bridge a gap that could be the infant could experience later on. It will affect every other stage or their inability to possibly resolve their issues in their other stages of development. But again, while they may not be able to resolve this conflict in this time, they still can move on to other stages. It just means that their emotional development will not be as healthy as it would as if they had resolved this conflict in stage 1. As you can see, though, attachment issues will develop. And what we're going to do is in this next part, we're going to talk more about attachment issues and then more specifically how it affects the military population.